One of my dearest causes in the whole world, I have a couple of monthly columns in magazines, one of which is High Times, believe it or not. And, it's a strange thing for an ex-narc who hasn't had a beer or a joint. I've had no mind-altering chemicals in 18 years. It'll be 19 in January. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I work a lot with men in recovery. I've written more than 30 articles on the subject of drug addiction and recovery for the U.S. Journal of Drug and Alcohol Dependence, and I can tell you that drug addiction is a medical, social, and spiritual problem. It is not a criminal problem. And one of the most frightening things that I saw in the wake, and we're going to wind this up here, and I'm going to hit you with everything that I got. One of the most frightening things that I saw in the wake of the attacks was a story that showed right here, this is from the New York Post, that the two companies, most of you know that some 30 to 40% of the prison inmates in this company are housed by private corporations who trade their stock on Wall Street based upon the number of human beings that they're housing in prison. That's what our economy has evolved into. We are a search and destroy economy. A snake eating its own tail is not nutritious, yet that's what we're doing. And I saw that the stocks of these two companies, Corrections Corporation of America and Wackenhut, went up 300% in the, 2 weeks after the attacks. And not only that, you read this story, and there was an urgent request outside of the budget for 40,000 new prison beds. That's before the next year's budget. Now, does anybody here think there are 40,000 Islamic terrorists in this country? Who are those beds for? I'll tell you when I get there, you know? Okay? But the Bureau of Prisons budget request next year is supposed to ask for something, and this is not confirmed, but I've heard on the order of 400,000 new prison beds. Maybe more.
You had that on your site?
What I just showed you was in one of the issues of the newsletter on the site, yes. Now, in January of this year, when the Bush administration took office, these are the folks that brought us savings and loan with Lockheed Martin, DynCorp, looting $2 trillion out of the Department of Defense, $59 billion out of HUD. That's to sustain this bubble, to maintain the grip on power of this CFR trilateral group that has taken us into a war for Central Asian oil before the age of oil ends. And in January I said, they're going to go after Social Security. You mark my words. The savings and loan was just a warm-up. And here I find this story, or this letter, written to the Honorable Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who is the head of the President's Commission to strengthen, Newspeak, Orwell, strengthen Social Security. And the letter is from two members of Congress. It's from Henry Waxman, I don't have the second page, and one other member of Congress. And you know what they're saying? You've locked us out of your meetings. You're having closed-door, classified meetings on Social Security. We're the members of the Ways and Means Committee that are charged with Social Security oversight, and you have locked us out of the meetings. Does that scare you? It scares me. They've just been writing letters so far. Hey, listen, I'm going to come to this, but, there's a few bright lights on the hill. They aren't fully bright yet, but there are some people speaking out. And in the wake of the total assault on American civil liberties, Patrick Leahy, forgive me, had the temerity to write 6 letters to Attorney General John Ashcroft demanding that he testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on such matters as military tribunals and Ashcroft's unilateral decision to begin wiretapping attorney-client conversations in terrorist cases. And he said, I demand that you respond to me in writing. I think it was by the 13th. Well, he got a response in writing, but it was an anthrax letter. the Democrats? All right, now let's look at this. H.R. 3162, the Patriot Act. Hey, let's hear it for the Patriot Act. Now it's group therapy. That's good. Okay. In the most recent issue of From the Wilderness, we covered some of the highlights or the lowlights of this bill. And I want you to listen to me very closely. This is your Constitution. We're coming now to pay the bill for the price that you, and remember how I defined you at the beginning of this presentation, as all of the American people who failed to reconcile accounts after the assassination of John Kennedy, of Bobby Kennedy, of Martin Luther King, of Iran-Contra, of Vietnam, of Panama, of savings and loan, of the genocide of 2 million people in Rwanda, of the rendering to radioactive waste of large portions of Iraq with depleted uranium that's contaminated with plutonium, the displacement of 1 million people in Colombia within the last year. The bills are coming due, and now it's your turn to pay. The Patriot Act that was passed just recently includes several provisions. First of all, the FBI can enter your home in a criminal investigation. I think it's criminal. They might have said terrorist. It doesn't make any difference how you define it. When you're not there, without a search warrant, they may seize whatever they want to seize and use it to convict you in a court of law for a crime when you didn't even know they came. Now, how many people know that the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution is supposed to protect us against unreasonable searches and seizures? The Patriot Act also permits the CIA to share its intelligence files with local law enforcement. Now, what does that mean? Everybody knows the agency's been wiretapping people illegally for a long time. So is the FBI, COINTELPRO. I mean, you know. But the deal was that that information, because it wasn't obtained under a warrant, could never be introduced into court as evidence. Now when the CIA turns all that information over to the Los Angeles Police Department or the Chicago Police Department, they can write that up as a probable cause statement, go out and find one other piece of evidence, and put it all into court. Gee, the Fourth Amendment is gone. The exclusionary rule, it's gone. The Act also provides that local police agencies can share their intelligence with the CIA, who may in turn share it with foreign intelligence agencies. We have the beginnings of a global secret police. Echelon is a program of wiretapping run by the United States, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And it was originally set up on the premise, gee, it's illegal for CIA to wiretap Americans, but there's nothing wrong with the Canadians doing it. And Americans will wiretap the British, and the Australians will wiretap, and then we all share it. That's Echelon. And now all that information now under the Patriot Act can now be used in terrorist criminal prosecutions. And it's going to get worse for you in just a minute here, if it isn't bad enough already. Okay. In addition, the Patriot Act allows cops to search for judges. You don't have to go to a judge in your jurisdiction. You can go to Joe Friendly judge, thereby cutting out any judge that might refuse a warrant because it's not illegal. Or because it's illegal, excuse me. Now we have John Ashcroft saying he's going to wiretap attorney-client conversations in terrorist cases. Terrorist cases I'm only going to do it, I swear, you know, involving cases of terrorists with foreigners. Now, the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution says that we have an absolute right against self-incrimination, and protected communications are those between an attorney and his client, a husband and his wife, a priest or a spiritual leader and his confessor. Gone. We have President